Hello and welcome back to Scottish Independence Podcasts. This week we're having a closer look at the programme for government. As you might remember, was announced in Holyrood a week or two ago, and it's the programme for the final year of the current Holyrood administration. And this is, I think, quite important really to get your head around. It took me a little while, but it's not a manifesto for the next government or the Holyrood election. It's about this is what we're going to do in the final year of the current government. At first, when I listened to it, I thought, that's not very exciting. It isn't very exciting in terms of here's how we're going to get independence, but that's not what it's for.
It was Fiona's idea to do this, and I kind of went, programme for government. Oh, it'll just be more about, ending child poverty. That's what it's always about. Now, to be clear, let's end child poverty, right? But I did think, it's not just boring. It turns out that would be unfair to the Scottish Government. That really isn't fair to it. There is stuff in this that's worthwhile, knowing about and thinking about.
Absolutely. And the devil's in the detail often in these things. So what we're going to start off with, just for a recap for everybody, or maybe you're seeing it for the first time. So we're going to start with the speeches because that is the highlights that they wanted to put forward. But then we're going to have a look at the actual programme for government, which is on the ScotGov website. And I'll put the link below because the amount of detail that's in that is way, way more than they have time to say on the screen. And there's some absolute gems in there. There's also some bits that I thought, oh my God, what does that mean? So it's really worth reading through the detail. But what we'll do, we'll pick out things that caught our eye and hopefully encourage you to go and then have a look at the whole thing yourself. This is day to day, the running of our country. And it's a huge programme. And a lot of it's really, really important stuff. So that's my pitch. Let's see how John Swinney said it. And this is First Minister John Swinney's statement to Scottish Parliament on the 6th of May.
Tomorrow will mark 1 year since I was honoured to be elected as the First Minister of this country that I love. I spoke then of my ambition to create a vibrant economy in every part of our country, my determination to tackle the challenges faced by our beloved National Health Service, and my hope that we can come together as a Parliament and as a country to focus on solutions rather than allowing our disagreements to dominate. Over the past year, amidst real challenges, amidst deep uncertainty on the global stage, progress has been made. In ways big and small, a corner is being turned. This is a government that is working hard and determined to get Scotland on track for success. That progress has been evident in the way we do our business here in our Parliament. The fact that 4 parties were able to come together to negotiate in good faith and pass a budget that delivers record funding for our National Health Service is testament to what is possible. Today's programme for government is presented in that same spirit. It contains many of the fruits of our budget process, with elements within it that are there only because of the cooperation of other parties. But this is also a programme by an SNP government, a government that cares deeply about Scotland, a government that has total confidence in Scotland's ability to rise to any challenge and to weather any storm. Presiding Officer, before I turn to those elements that are in the programme for government, I want to talk about some measures that are not included. With a year to go until the end of this Parliament, there are clearly limits on the amount of legislation we can present. This government, and I personally, remain entirely committed to tackling misogynistic abuse against women. Regrettably, I do not believe there is sufficient parliamentary time to make progress through a standalone bill, which I would plan to bring forward at the start of the next Parliament. We will, however, take the action we can in this Parliament by adding sex as a protected characteristic to existing hate crimes legislation to protect women and girls, and by taking further steps in our policy to tackle unacceptable abuse of women and girls in our society. Conversion practices that seek to change or suppress a person's sexual orientation or gender identity are harmful and abusive. Over this coming year, we will seek to work with the United Kingdom Government to deliver a legislative ban across England, Wales and Scotland. But if agreement is not possible, we will publish legislation in the first year of the next parliamentary term. Members of the LGBTQI+ community should have no doubt that we will work with them to protect and to defend their rights. Times are tough, Presiding Officer, and times are changing in ways that I know bring real anxiety to our citizens, real fear to many in our business community. But my promise to the people of Scotland is that amidst the uncertainty, there is one thing they can be sure of. This is a government that will always seek to do what is best for Scotland. As First Minister, I will always put the needs and interests, the hopes and dreams of the people of Scotland first. When I became First Minister a year ago, I heard loud and clear people's concerns about the health of Scotland's NHS. They would tell me about their many positive experiences of high-quality care from the dedicated staff in the NHS, experiences of treatment and care that are invariably world-class. But they also spoke of difficulties accessing that care, waiting times that were unacceptable, adding to anxiety, systems that they felt did not put patients first. Presiding Officer, there are many issues that compete on a daily basis for the attention of a First Minister, but what could be more important than our National Health Service? So I'm proud that the £30 million that we committed has not just delivered the 64,000 additional NHS appointments and procedures between April of last year and the end of January this year that we promised, but over 40,000 more than planned. An extra 105,000 vital additional appointments and procedures that are helping to reduce waiting lists and waiting times. We have met the children and adolescent mental health waiting time standards, with over 90% now seen within 18 weeks of their referral. More cancer patients are now treated faster. Compared with a decade ago, 16% more patients receive care within the 31-day standard and 11% more within the 62-day standard. Statistics, yes, but behind each one a person who has received the sort of reliable and effective care from the National Health Service that they deserve. Progress, yes, but with a very clear understanding that there is more, much more to do. And that is why a renewed and stronger NHS is at the very heart of this programme for government. Getting our NHS on track is about reform that is fundamentally patient-centred, it is about investment, and it's about increasing productivity and capacity. This approach makes it possible for us to deliver more than 150,000 extra appointments and procedures in 2025-26. The additional investment secured through the Scottish Budget will enable us to expand specialist regional centres. Technology will mean more efficient use of operating theatres. The result? A 50% increase in the number of surgical procedures we can deliver compared with this year. There will be a renewed focus on cancer diagnosis and treatment, targeted investment so that health boards can clear backlogs and substantially improve waiting times. Presiding Officer, I could spend the whole statement just talking about the steps we are taking to access the National Health Service. But before moving on to other issues, I will highlight one other area that I know is of particular concern to many people. While many people's experience of their GP service is excellent, for many others there is deep frustration over the difficulty making appointments and what has been described as the ATM lottery. This is of central importance to me. That is why we are acting to reduce pressure and increase capacity in the system so that it is easier for people to get the care that they need when they need it. That includes, in the year ahead, a further expansion of Pharmacy First services, with pharmacies being the right first port of call for many ailments. But it also means the delivery of an extra 100,000 appointments in GP surgeries focused on key risk factors such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity and smoking. This year, primary care, including GPs, is receiving a bigger share of new NHS funding, and we are committed to not only increasing GP numbers but protecting Scotland's advantage, which means substantially more GPs per head in Scotland compared to elsewhere in the United Kingdom.
Thank you.
Presiding Officer, members across the Chamber will know that alongside the NHS, our constituents are also deeply exercised about the ongoing cost of living crisis. We have experienced a decade and more of financial insecurity, higher prices and squeezed real incomes. Life feels substantially tougher for many of those that we serve. The economy means jobs, growth and investment, and I will talk about all of these elements. But above all, the economy is about people's quality of life. It is about their own household budget, their ability to pay the bills. The Scottish Government will always do what it can to deliver the best deal for the people of Scotland. In concrete terms, that means a commitment to keep council tax bills, already 30% lower on average in Scotland than in England, substantially lower than elsewhere in the UK. Water bills, already 20% lower than in England, will remain lower, as will income tax for the majority of workers in Scotland. Prescriptions will continue to be free here in Scotland. Eye appointments free. Bus travel for young, disabled and older people in Scotland free. Scotland will continue to pay no tuition fees. Parents will continue to benefit from a package of early learning and childcare worth more than £6,000 for every eligible child. Free school meals, which save the average family £400 per child per year, will be expanded and more breakfast clubs introduced. Together, this is my cost of living guarantee, a package that year on year delivers savings for the people of Scotland, a package that exists nowhere else in the United Kingdom.
Thank you. Thank you.
And, Presiding Officer, it is a package of cost of living support that we are always looking to enhance where we can. That is why we took the decision in the budget to restore a winter fuel payment for Scottish pensioners, with the poorest receiving the most. Those payments will be made this year, and it is why we are committed to doing even more. Last year, in the face of severe budget pressures, we took the difficult decision to end the peak fares pilot on our railways. But now, given the work that we have done to get Scotland's finances in a stronger position, and hearing also the calls from commuters, from climate activists and from the business community, I can confirm that from the 1st of September this year, peak rail fares in Scotland will be scrapped for good.
Thank you.
A decision that will put more money in people's pockets and mean less CO2 is pumped into our skies. Once again, tens of thousands of Scots saving money. Once again, a better deal for people because they live in Scotland. Better for Scots because there's a government that always strives for what is best for Scotland. Alongside the cost of living pressures, the consequence of a series of body blows from austerity and Brexit to the spike in inflation and energy costs that followed Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine, new threats are emerging that have the potential to cause extensive damage to the Scottish economy. Tariffs will impact directly on many Scottish exporters to the United States, while a US recession and a global trade war will have direct effects and indirect effects on almost every sector of our economy. Presiding Officer, this programme for government has been published earlier than usual, in part because it allows a clear year of delivery on the NHS and other public services, delivery in those areas that matter in the day-to-day lives of our citizens. But it has also been published now because of the scale of the looming economic challenge that we face. For the sake of Scottish jobs, for the sake of protecting people's quality of life, we are taking new steps, accelerating action to ensure Scotland's economy is better placed to ride the economic storms. Members will see the detailed and extensive section on the economy in the Programme for Government document, with action on planning reform, skills, housing investment, support for our rural economy, including our vital food and drink sector, promotion of Scotland the brand and more. But I want to highlight three particular initiatives designed to respond directly and specifically to the challenges we now face. First, working with Scottish Development International across their 34 international offices, We will deliver a new 6-point export plan to enable Scottish exporters to diversify and to grow markets. This includes more support for SMEs to participate in trade missions in both established and emerging markets, additional grant funding to help companies unlock specific targeted international growth, and bespoke support in key sectors, technology, life sciences, renewables and hydrogen, to maximise international opportunities. Second, to enable emerging Scottish companies to grow, we will create a new proof of concept fund with a focus on supporting the commercialisation of research projects with significant economic potential. We will deliver an improved ecosystem fund to further enhance Scotland's already effective start-up environment, including action to transform the number of women who start and scale up businesses. We must not forget, even amongst the gathering clouds, that Scotland is an innovative nation and that opportunities exist which can deliver real and significant benefits now and in the future. This government will prepare for the challenges, but we also seek to position Scotland to make the most of the many and significant economic opportunities that still exist. Third, we will deepen our commitment to a just transition and an industrial future for Scotland. As members will be aware, the Deputy First Minister is actively engaging with potential investors to ensure a green industrial future for the Grangemouth site. A key element in the success of this work is the development of carbon capture in Scotland, which is why it is now vital that the UK Government provides support not only to carbon capture projects in England, but also to the Acorn project in Scotland's North East. The Scottish Government has previously committed up to £80 million to make this happen if the UK Government, in turn, made the commitments necessary for the project to progress. Given the importance of this project for the Scottish economy, given its place at the very heart of the green industrialisation that is my ambition, and I trust the ambition of all parties in this chamber, my government is now willing, as part of a wider package of investment in industrial transformation, to remove that cap and increase the amount of Scottish funding that is available to make Acorn a reality should the project be given the go-ahead by the United Kingdom Government. I know many in this chamber share my concern that Scotland is little more than an afterthought to a UK Government that is willing to invest in a supercomputer in the southeast of England weeks after cancelling the supercomputer for Edinburgh. A UK Government that moved heaven and earth to save Scunthorpe, but will not do the same for Grangemouth. Perhaps with swift action from the UK Government to support Acorn, which in turn will help us to deliver the future that Grangemouth deserves, the Prime Minister will do the right thing by Grangemouth.
Thank you.
Presiding Officer, working to deliver a stronger NHS, giving the people of Scotland the best cost of living support of any part of the United Kingdom, and action to protect Scotland's economy and maximise our economic potential in the face of global challenges, this is a government with what is best for Scotland at its heart. Since becoming First Minister last year, I've sought to focus government efforts on 4 central priorities. We seek a wealthier Scotland, higher standards of living for the people of Scotland, with action to grow Scotland's economy. A fairer Scotland, with Scotland's growing wealth shared more fairly so that we can remove the scourge of child poverty in our land. A greener Scotland, with action to maximise the benefits felt by the people of Scotland from our renewable energy wealth, benefits in terms of lower bills and well-paid jobs, and action to reduce emissions and protect and restore our stunning natural environment. And we seek public services that meet and indeed exceed the expectations of the people of Scotland. Have no doubt, many already do, but where action is needed to reform and renew, this government will take it. Progress for Scotland underpins each of our priorities and is at the heart of everything we will do. I want a Scotland that we can be proud of, a Scotland that is the best it can possibly be. That ambition is what gets me up every single morning. And at the very heart of that is the eradication of child poverty. Last year, when I presented my programme for government, I referred to the eradication of child poverty as the moral compass of my government. It remains so. It will until there is no single child left in poverty in Scotland. It is also, I said, the greatest investment in our country's future that we can possibly make. And in these times of cost of living pressures, that investment becomes ever more important, for these things disproportionately hurt our society's poorest. That is why, over the course of this Parliament, we increased the Scottish Child Payment from the original proposal that was put to us of a £5 payment to £27.15 and created a broader package of family payments which can be worth roughly £25,000 by age 16. Our policies are making a difference. On average, the lowest income households with children are estimated to be £2,600 a year better off this year as a result of Scottish Government policies. By 2029-30, it's expected to grow to an average of £3,700. The proportion of children living in relative poverty has reached its lowest level since 2014-15, and Scotland is making deeper, quicker progress here than in the rest of the United Kingdom. And while the Joseph Rowntree Foundation predicts child poverty will rise in other parts of the United Kingdom by 2029, policies such as our Scottish Child Payment and our commitment to end the cruel two-child limit are, and I quote, behind Scotland bucking the trend. But if we want to truly eradicate child poverty in Scotland, we must go further, and I recognise that. We are taking the steps to lift the two-child limit and remain on track to deliver this measure to lift more children out of poverty next April. It is also about making sure that public services are more joined up in their response, more family and person-centred, so that vulnerable families receive the focused help they need rather than simply the help that is available. And in the coming year, we will consult on, develop and publish a Tackling Child Poverty Delivery Plan for 2026 to 31, outlining the actions we will take with our partners for low-income families across Scotland to keep us on the journey to meet our poverty reduction targets for 2030. I can assure members that this will focus on reducing household costs, boosting incomes through social security and helping more people into fair and sustainable jobs, all of which play a central part in tackling not only the symptoms but the root causes of poverty in our society. Presiding Officer, there is always much more that we are doing that can be mentioned in a short parliamentary statement. I would encourage members and their constituents to read the programme for government with care. They will see our ongoing commitment to achieving net zero by 2045, action to maximise the environmental and economic benefits from our vast renewable energy wealth, steps to decarbonise heating and further decarbonise our transport network. To give just one example, I'm proud that we've achieved our target of installing 6,000 public charge points for electric vehicles 2 years ahead of schedule, but more is needed, which is why in the year ahead we will introduce a new rural and island EV infrastructure grant supporting our commitment to approximately 24,000 additional public electric vehicle charge points by 2030. The public will notice in our programme for government the priority we are giving to the ABCs of education, with action in partnership with local government, parents, carers, pupils and schools to raise attainment and address problems of attendance, to tackle head-on behavioural challenges in our classrooms and reform the curriculum so that young Scots are equipped fully to meet the challenges and seize the opportunities of this new age. There is action to help regenerate our town centres, investment in thousands of new homes, record funding for the culture sector, new protections for renters, expansion of dental provision, a focus on additional support needs in our schools and much, much more. Presiding Officer, this is a programme for government, but also a programme for a better Scotland, a programme for a stronger NHS, for a more resilient Scotland, for a wealthier Scotland, centred on delivery, providing hope. It is a programme that seeks what's best for Scotland, a programme for government that gets our nation on track for success.
Straight after Swinney's speech, Kate Forbes did another one, she sort of has a slightly different focus, but again, quite well set out. And she kind of takes interventions as she's going along. So that's a bit more mixed up. But that'll give you what they consider to be the highlights. So
that's good. And Kate Forbes is usually a bit more feisty.
She's a good speaker, she makes it sound really, she's more energised, whereas John Swinney's very laid back. Yeah. I think
there's a lot of compliments you could lay at John Swinney's door, but feisty is not one of them.
No. One thing I really liked was the way Kate Forbes introduced the 4 priority areas. She gave them her sort of spin on them, her take on what those things meant, which to me really brought them to life a bit. So listen out for that bit of her speeches right at the beginning.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The First Minister has set out an ambitious and bold plan for delivery over the next 12 months. And as Deputy First Minister, I hold responsibility for cross-government delivery and outcomes. Each of the commitments that have been set out by the First Minister demonstrates that this is a government which believes in action, improving the lives of the people of Scotland today and tomorrow. And this government is delivering positive change and tangible benefits, policies that people can see and feel in their daily lives. My role is to ensure that that continues to be the case. But with stretched public finances, we can't do everything. Hard decisions must sometimes be made. And so we focus on what has the greatest and the most positive impact for the people of Scotland now and how we invest for the future. This government has always been very clear on what's needed. The First Minister has set out his priorities. He set them out the day he accepted his position as leader of the nation, and he reiterated them today. They are eradicating child poverty so that no child in Scotland sees their opportunities curtailed. Secondly, growing a wellbeing economy to create new jobs and a fairer society. Thirdly, tackling the climate emergency to help nature heal and fight climate change while investing in a greener future for us all. And lastly and fourthly, providing high-quality and sustainable public services so that we're healthier and every community, whether urban or rural, can thrive. I would hope that these 4 objectives are objectives that every member can get behind in this chamber. And yet, from global conflict to shifts in global trade, not all challenges can be solved and controlled in Scotland. But we can ensure collectively that Scotland is ready and resilient. We can improve the lives of individuals, of families and communities with this programme for government. And we are already doing so. I will.
Jeremy Balfour.
I'm grateful to the Deputy First Minister. Deputy First Minister, in last year's programme of government, there were a number of bills which were going to benefit the lives of disabled people. Those bills were all dropped over the last 12 months, and there's nothing within this programme of government specifically for disabled people. You talk about helping the most vulnerable. What within this programme of government will help disabled people who make up 20% of the population here in Scotland?
Always to the Chair, Deputy First Minister.
Well, I can assure the member that this government is absolutely committed to delivering for disabled people, and you will not find this government following in the same footsteps as the UK government, who have completely deserted disabled people. And I was just coming on, Presiding Officer, to some of the achievements of this government, not least investing £6.9 billion in a Scottish benefits system that prioritises dignity and fairness of every human being. And in our efforts to eradicate child poverty, we have successfully delivered the Scottish Child Payment. In tackling the climate crisis, we've halved Scotland's emissions between 1990 and 2022, while growing the economy by 67%. And we've created around 75% of all new woodlands in the UK. We've installed 6,000 public charge points for electric vehicles, 2 years ahead of schedule. And to grow the economy from 2023 to 2024 through investment in Scottish enterprise, we've helped businesses to unlock a record £1.89 billion of planned capital investment. That has created or safeguarded over 16,700 jobs, tangible outcomes that people are experiencing today because of decisions that this government has taken. In 2023, inward investment projects in Scotland grew by more than double the UK average. And for the 9th year running, Scotland remains the UK's top performing area outside of London and the South East for foreign direct investment. Investors believe in the potential that the Scottish economy has to offer. Over this Parliament to December 2024, we also supported the completion of almost 35,000 affordable homes, with over 26,000 for social rent. We've brought digital connectivity to some of the hardest to reach areas in Scotland, and we've not only delivered the 64,000 additional NHS appointments and procedures between April 2024 and the end of January 2025 that we promised, but 11,500 more than planned. Those achievements, and many more than can be listed in Chamber today, are the record of a government that is committed to action and has delivered for the people of Scotland. I'll take a number of interventions, starting with Liz Smith.
Liz Smith.
To the Deputy First Minister. 2 budgets ago, the real terms cut in the economy budget was 8.3%, and that was at a time where the forecasters were saying that the overall budget had gone up by 2.2%. Business complained at the time that that was doing nothing to enhance the skills agenda that we are desperately needing in Scotland for new jobs and for our new industries. Could the Deputy First Minister comment on that?
Deputy First Minister.
Incredibly proud of the work that our enterprise agencies and the Scottish National Investment Bank has done over the last 2 years. We aren't pretending that financial budgets are anything but challenging right across the UK. And what this government has done is to prioritise the areas of economic impact that will have the greatest potential to create jobs, to attract that inward investment. So if you look at the Scottish enterprise results from last year, I referenced some of them just there, they are directly involved in creating jobs and ensuring that we attract inward investment. And those outcomes, in terms of being the highest performing area outside of London and the South East, I think demonstrates that we are investing in the right areas. This programme for government has been brought forward because of a number of challenges that we are grappling with. The first is the lingering effects of Brexit, 14 years of austerity and inflation. It's also conflicts across the world and an increasing number of adverse weather events brought on by climate change, and the turmoil of tariffs, of global trade wars and faltering economies. It's certain that we will see the effects of all this here at home. I'll make a bit more progress, and if I've got time I'll bring in some others. The strain on the public purse and public services will continue. The strain on people's finances, the stress and uncertainty cannot be wished away. But this government is ready, it is resilient, and it will ensure that Scotland is ready and resilient too. And to that end, we are refocusing and redoubling our efforts. This programme for government sets out the concrete actions that will make our communities healthier, fairer, greener and more prosperous, that will make Scotland a better place to live, work, create and invest. Presiding Officer, as the Minister with responsibility for delivery and outcomes, my focus is on ensuring the government's work is aligned to create the greatest possible benefit for the people of Scotland. That's what the commitments in this programme for government all do. They are the actions that will make the biggest difference to improving people's lives. So in the coming year, we will develop the systems needed to effectively scrap the impact of the 2-child cap. That will limit the impacts of a cruel UK government policy on families in Scotland and support them through the ongoing cost of living crisis. We'll continue with the Scottish Child Payment, which this year is expected to support around 330,000 children. We'll introduce a universal pension age winter heating payment from this winter, so that all pensioners are supported to heat their homes through the coldest months. And we'll support delivery of over 8,000 affordable homes for social rent, mid-market rent and low-cost home ownership. That will ease the housing crisis and provide people with significant relief from the largest of their greatest monthly expenses.
Craig Hoy.
I thank the Minister for giving way. I've seen a reference to business rates in the programme for government. She, like me, will understand that business, particularly now that England is looking at creating a fairer business rate system, particularly for our high streets, now that Scottish business is calling out for similar measures here. Does the government intend to undertake a reform of business rates, particularly for retail, hospitality and leisure?
Deputy First Minister.
Well, I thank the member for the opportunity to clarify. So this government obviously introduced reforms to non-domestic rates a number of years ago based on an independent review. We are aware of what the UK government is planning to introduce, which we believe they are setting out will be self-financing. So it has consequences for Scotland because the business base is different. There are just larger businesses in England to self-finance. But what we have announced today is, in recognition of the ongoing concerns raised by the licensed hospitality sector on the valuation methodology applied to non-domestic rate properties, we'll commission an independent review to report by the end of next year and consider any recommendations. So that will be independent and is entirely in line with what has been requested by the hospitality sector. Presiding Officer, with the minute I have left, we will also introduce a heat and buildings bill to set targets. We'll work with the UK Government to reform the consenting process through the Planning and Infrastructure Bill. Subject to the approval of the Housing Bill, we'll begin work to improve outcomes for those at risk of homelessness and strengthen tenants' rights. We'll see to it that more people can see their GP and receive care in the community. We'll invest up to £200 million in the Scottish Attainment Challenge programme. We'll establish Invest Scotland, which I'm particularly pleased about, to showcase Scottish investment opportunities to global investors. We'll support entrepreneurship by creating a £2.9 million proof of concept fund. We'll invest £150 million to support private investment in supply chain clusters for offshore wind, and all of that will lead to more thriving businesses and more high-quality employment for people living in Scotland. And so, Presiding Officer, with these actions and more, we will deliver the greatest possible impacts for Scotland, tangible benefits that people will feel in their daily lives. And I look forward to hearing the debate over the course of this afternoon.
Thank you, Deputy First Minister.
Now, listening to John Swinney and Kate Forbes there, you might be thinking, but that's a huge amount of detail already. It is, but there was much more detail than that about these things and a whole load of other stuff they didn't have time to mention, which is on the ScotGov website. Now, we've put the link in the notes. So much so, it's a huge programme.
It's huge. It just is huge, isn't it? And good on
But
them.
it's interesting. It's huge and it's interesting. And I'm going to just pick out some of the stuff that caught my eye. First of all, do you remember talk about the Good Food Nation bill? And there's a Good Food Nation plan coming, and there's a Scottish Food Commission to be set up. Well, that all sounds positive. I remember being involved in one of the consultation focus groups in Alloa of the Good Food Nation. There's a carbon neutral islands project. We've said in the past, why don't they go island by island and make them sustainable and carbon neutral? Well, that's on the plan. There's a £70 million flexible funding for inter-island connectivity. Well, maybe those are the people who want tunnels. Maybe that's the start of that kind of project. And it's up to the councils to decide how to spend that.
That's an important point, isn't it? That it's money that is up to the locals on the council who are the experts. So if they get that money, I mean, hopefully there'll be some really good initiatives come from that.
Designating areas of linguistic significance tied in with the Scottish Language Bill. Now, that's something that you don't hear a lot about. It's really important to our culture. There's a £2 bus fare cap pilot. Well, for those group of people in the middle who aren't the young, the old or the disabled who pay fares, bus fares are actually quite expensive.
That's really good. I mean, they ran that down in England for a while. It may have stopped by now. But actually I'm really pleased to hear that, because sometimes when I'm on the bus and I think, there's not a lot of people on here, who've paid. But then I'm in during the day when the people who would pay are probably at their work, actually. And, ScotGov have just done away with the peak fares again. That was part of it. So good that it also gets spread over onto bus travel. Great. Yeah,
and they've also, this is something that came up last year, and there was I remember the discussion about it, and then I've heard nothing since, but they're looking at another pilot, free bus travel for asylum seekers. Well, anything that helps people feel more part of society, helps them get around, and supports a demand for bus services, because that's
exactly. And of course helps them feel less of being strangers in a new land.
Yes, exactly. Because I know from sitting on any bus in Glasgow, by the time you get to this, you're not strangers with anybody on that
You're not
bus.
strangers with anyone on the bus. I know. That's really great, actually.
Yeah.
Really good.
And even being able to join a volunteering group, the kind of society we want to be, especially when there's so much ugly language spilling around coming up from down south.
I mean, if you can get on a bus for nothing to get yourself along to the nearest college, because there are courses that are run, but it's getting people to go to them that's difficult. That's just anything that helps. It's brilliant. So well done for that one, Scott Government.
Yeah, it's a good one. Another one I liked, there's a law in England called AWAB's law, and it came about as a result of a child who died because of mould in their rented property. And so what it requires is for landlords to promptly address issues hazardous to tenants' health. And I thought, well, of course, that's a good thing to do. And the other one I really, really like, they're banning the sale and supply of single-use vapes from the 1st of June. Brilliant.
Hooray.
And when we were litter picking a couple of weeks ago, I don't know how many single-use discarded vapes we found in that forested area, and they've all got a little lithium-ion battery in them. They're all different coloured plastic, so brilliant that that's happening. Another one I really like, there's a Women's Health Research Fund, and this, I think, we're at the prime of our lives, but I remember as a younger woman how many things were dismissed as women's problems, women's issues. Yeah, so that's women's things, women's troubles.
We're not going to talk about that. That's women's things.
But good to have an actual health research fund, because these women's things do make an issue to your ability to work, for example, or your ability to
to stick in there with your family and
all sorts of things, or even have a family.
Or even have a family. Yes, that's true.
I love this one as well. There's come up with a blueprint for democratic community decision-making models and test these, including supporting piloting of citizens' assemblies in Dunfermline. Isn't that brilliant? Because we've been so interested in local democracy and participative democracy, and here's actual pilots. And Dunfermline is not very far from here, so if there is something going on, in fact, we're going to Dunfermline in a couple of weeks' time, aren't we, to one of their meetings? So they might know more about this. That would be really good to find out.
Great. That's really good.
It is good. Just to finish off, a couple of things I wasn't sure about, and I don't know if maybe we don't want to end on a low, but here's a few things I would have some questions about. They're launching Invest Scotland, which is a new portal to showcase investment opportunities. This worries me, because is this more selling off the family silver to foreign investors? And they've also got Accelerate targeted program of engagement with capital investors. Who's that? Tax havens, foreign pension schemes, Chinese government. Donald Trump. This is something that Coleman Wheel, or Craig Dale in particular, keeps coming back to, about the extractive nature of these investments.
Yes,
and it reminds this sort of, come over here, put something on our land, extract the profits off, we'll provide labour and be grateful for it. It's like giving shiny beads to the natives.
Oh dear, I think it's probably a little bit more nuanced, than that.
I might be exaggerating for effect.
You might be exaggerating a bit, but actually, no, it's true. You see, I would be fine with that if I knew that there was a lot of thinking done about safeguarding that for the very reasons that you've just been saying. So not selling off the family silver. So if I knew the safeguards were round about it, then that's okay. But if anyone's going to put money in, they are going to want a profit on their money. That's kind of part of the game. But it's how much. And where does it go to, and the tax levels on it. So I'm with you. I have grave reservations about that. And well, I suppose we have to wait and see. I think it's true that there's a lot of criticism of the SNP as being too welcoming to incoming capital, and I think maybe there's something in that.
Well, maybe that's something we could dig into a bit deeper in a future programme, because it might be that it's just all brilliant and really interesting, and I'm just very, very suspicious. Somebody mentioned that whole Petro-Ineos site that is Grangemouth, the land is owned by a private company and the Chinese government. Well, why are we letting them own our land? Why don't we rent them a bit of land to put their building on?
Exactly.
And then when they go, it's still our land.
Yes, to give them a 50-year lease or something, but after that, it comes back to us.
And they can be paying the lease to the local council or whatever. So, there's just stuff there that doesn't seem right to me. And it might be that it's more complicated. I'm sure it's more complicated than I understand, but it just doesn't ring right. And then the other thing that set alarm bells off was they're going to use the powers in the housing bill, which is currently going through scrutiny, to exempt certain properties, including new properties built for rent, from rent control. Why? Is that not the whole point of rent control, is that you have some control over people buying properties, renting them out and extracting massive profits?
That's very strange.
It is. Now, it might be some kind of SOP to prevent landlords who think, oh, well, I'm not doing it then if I can't extract massive profits. But I would like to know what's underneath that. I'd like to understand.
Well, I mean, landlords may well think that, but actually people who want to rent won't think that. They'll go, don't worry, I'll rent it.
And this is something the Tories in particular, during the course of discussions on the housing bill, there was some discussion about, oh, but you'll drive landlords out of the business. Think, well, maybe you will, but that house is still there. So if they decide not to rent it, okay, maybe they'll sell it. Well, that's somebody's got a home. That frees up another place wherever they were living. These are not terrible things.
Yes, and local authorities can go in and buy back property.
Yes. Closer cooperation with the UK, EU on emissions trading. What's that? Carbon credits? Is that us planting trees so they can carry on?
It sounds like carbon trading. That's okay as long as it's done with a genuine green transition type hat on. I mean, there are some good reasons for having carbon trading and carbon credits, but not as greenwashing, which is what that
greenwashing. That's the word. Yeah. This I've never heard anything about this before, and just when you read it on the paper, you think, what the? They're going to transform Inverness Castle into a Spirit of the Highlands themed attraction.
Oh God!
What?
Oh, sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Bonnie Prince Charlie, probably, I don't know if you even went to Inverness, but you've got Bonnie Prince Charlie and Flora MacDonald and
the Disney Palace in the background. I mean, it might be that this is something the locals are all absolutely behind.
Yes, it might be.
They might have been campaigning for this for years. If so, I apologise, but I haven't heard anything about it. And you just think, what? You can imagine big plastic Nessie appearing in front of the castle on the hour.
At least, I'll tell you, at least it's not Flamingo Land that are trying to do it.
I mean, we just don't know. But the
Flamingo Land have just been given the go-ahead.
Oh no, have they?
Yeah, I've just filled up. I've just sent a very angry letter off to Ivan McKee.
Oh, good. I certainly supported the campaign that Ross Greer's been running against.
Yeah, well, Ross has started up again, and there's still the Scottish Gov can still step in and stop it, that they can take it under their. But it has been given the go-ahead by ScotGov examiners, not the politicians, but the civil servants have given it a go-ahead.
Well, if you're watching, Ross, get in touch and we'll have you on the programme and we'll do a special on Loch Lomond and the Flamingo Land thing.
Yeah.
We don't know what Inverness Castle is going to be. Nessie. The other thing that I just the last bit, they are doing a thing about suspending travel cards for antisocial behaviour. Now, we covered this in one of our live streams, that the Tories have been on a mission to demonise under 22s and blame them for all antisocial behaviour, even though at the committee there was really clear evidence that actually the under 22s were more likely to be on the receiving end of it rather than perpetrating it. But such is the Tory mindset. But they are talking about suspending travel cards. Now, I get it. Somebody who is committing...
That would apply to everybody, though.
Exactly. That was my point. What about people who don't have travel cards? Example we got in that live stream was young girls using public transport and older men sitting close and taking photos of them. Now, those people probably don't have travel cards. So why is it just, a penalty for the people with the card?
And how would they find out?
Well, you'd have to report it, wouldn't you, I suppose?
Cameras in the buses,
Yeah.
so they would get
And you tap your card every time you use it on the thing, so that'll have some kind of...
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Don't know whether it identifies you or not. But, you know, what if it's the other way around? What if some 40-year-old creep is menacing a 17-year-old with a travel card? How do they get banned? You know?
I think you should write to your MSP.
I could write to my MSP. I've got a long list of things I intend to write to various people about. I'm not sure how quickly I'll get around to it. But anyway, so that just a whistle-stop tour around some of the bits that we picked out of that. But as you could see, there's a massive detail in it. And really, this is to do with our country. This is important stuff. So I would encourage you to read it, and we'll put the link below. And they're going to be very busy in the next year, is all I can say. Thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're listening on YouTube, you can click the little bell and you get a reminder whenever we put out a new episode, which is every Friday.
And sign up for our mailing list. You can do that from the website. And we always send one out at the beginning of each month to tell you what's happening. Last but not least, you can buy us a coffee on coffee.com.
And we'll catch you later. Bye now.